This evidence will come out if it turns out to be favorable to one of these guys. Remember, a week ago, they would have told you they weren't spying on anybody.
But, John, don't you have to prove that these wiretaps are illegal before you can take one step further?
First, you have to prove that you were a subject of the wiretap before you have any standing to challenge anything. If it was used, then you have the right to litigate whether it was legally obtained or illegally obtained.
Well, listen to President Bush, because as we've all heard him say, he believes what he has done is legal.
We use FISA still. You're referring to the FISA court in your question. Of course we use FISAs. But FISAs is for long-term monitoring. What is needed in order to protect the American people is the ability to move quickly to detect. Now, having suggested this idea, I then obviously went to the question, is it legal to do so? I swore to uphold the laws. Do I have the legal authority to do this? And the answer is absolutely. As I mentioned in my remarks, the legal authority is derived from the Constitution, as well as the authorization of force by the United States Congress.
Let me ask both of you just quickly. Do you believe that the president does have this authority, yes or no?
No.
Do you?
No, I don't think so.
So you already don't believe that he needs this authority in order to protect Americans from terrorism. But what's important for your clients is finding out whether there were ever secret wiretaps used. Are you confident that you're ever going to be able to figure that out, John?
Well, that's our job, is we're going to do everything we can to find out. And I don't consider the president to be the highest legal authority on the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, because I think there's a public sentiment that's probably growing out there about this particular case, and we mentioned this in the lead-in. There is one guy out there who was convicted of trying to blow up the Brooklyn Bridge, and now his lawyer says that he's going to sue the President of the United States. And some may say on a technicality, and that this guy could get out of prison. Isn't this the president's worst nightmare? How can we allow this to happen?
Well, look, whether he files a lawsuit against the president or not is irrelevant. As Americans, we're all entitled to fair trials. Everybody's entitled to know what evidence the government's going to produce against them and to confront that evidence. We don't make exceptions for fair trials just because of the outlandishness of the charges. None of us are in favor of terrorism. We are in favor of people having their constitutional rights. And nothing the president said there indicated that he had any concern about protecting the constitutional rights of any of these defendants.
But Ed, your client was convicted, a Muslim scholar was convicted and is serving life for trying to incite young followers to use violence against the United States overseas. What possibly could finding out about a secret wiretap mean that your client should be freed?
Well, I don't want to discuss the specifics of the case, but if his phone calls were being monitored during the whole time at issue in the indictment, and the phone calls don't match up with what some of the government snitches say he said on the calls, that would be very helpful to him. And you could extrapolate that out as far as you wanted in these cases. Nobody's supposed to just take the government's word that they don't have any favorable evidence because of national security.
Mm-hmm. Quick answer to this. Since we've learned that the government is now involved in a lot more data mining than we had previously known, working with phone companies and controlling these switches, calls that go overseas, etc., do either of you have any concern that possibly your own phone lines could have been tapped in conversations with your clients?
You're always concerned about that as a lawyer, and not just the mining of information, but just surreptitious eavesdropping.
Ed, let me ask you, one other thing that we learned yesterday was that the president says we still use FISA. And we do know that since the president has been in office, they have gone to the FISA court some 5,000 times. We also learned that there has been unprecedented second guessing by the FISA court of this administration. More than 179 cases modified, some rejected. What does that suggest to you? Well,
the FISA court is a court made of judges who are very serious about their jobs. But to say that the president has trouble getting a warrant, therefore he should just ignore the court entirely, is just an unbelievable argument. Why have the court at all if the president can do this? Why doesn't he just do it on his own? If he doesn't need the court or he's unhappy with the judges, just skip it altogether. And that's apparently what he's decided to do.
But does it suggest to you that perhaps this administration has been asking a lot from the FISA court? You say that it's a pretty government-friendly court.
Well, I don't know There may have been, in the last 10 years, I'm sure John could maybe answer, there may have been five rejected warrants
right.
in the last
thousands.
So almost never rejected.
And I'll tell you what they're upset about. They're upset about being lied to in the affidavits that come before them. The Fourth Circuit is upset about being lied to in the Padilla case. And the courts and the judges are starting to get upset about being lied to. You know, they've lied to the American people about many things that doesn't seem to bother them.
When you say they, you mean who?
I mean Bush and his administration. He sent in the Justice Department to tell the Fourth Circuit they had to hold this man without a trial, without any type of due process, because he was going to be a dirty bomb. It turns out they don't have the evidence for that based on their indictments.
All right, thank you to Ed McMahon and John Zwirling. And up next, we're going to get a response for some of the claims that were just made by the attorneys. We'll talk to former White House advisor Ron Christie. And later on the program, did the U.S. blow an opportunity to catch Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan in December of 2001? We'll ask a top CIA field commander who was there chasing bin Laden. You're watching Hardball only on MSNBC.